Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics. So those protesting about asylum seekers in hotels claim that they aren't racist, that they are trying to protect women and girls. This despite the very obvious flaws in their argument. They are, in fact, just acting out of racial hatred. And this weekend, they proved it beyond any doubt at all. But first, for daily news and politics, please click the subscribe button to stay notified. So I was discussing the background to the Epping hotel press in the stream last night, oblivious to another seemingly unrelated bit of news, which absolutely shines a light on the entire thing. So just to remind people how this kicked off. First of all, you have people like Nigel Farage telling people lies about the rates of violent offences, specifically sexual offences, committed by people who aren't white. This despite the overwhelming evidence to the contrary, because all the stats that Farage has come out with, by the way, are false. They've been proven false. The media then spend years reporting on 100% of all cases of a non-white person being convicted or even charged for sexual offences. It's always all over the news. And they only ever report white perpetrators if they're famous. This year alone, there have been several cases of gangs of white men convicted of such offences, which never appeared on any newspaper front page or main television bulletin. You've never even heard of it, right? Because you have to read properly into the news to see it. It's all a deliberate ploy to get people to associate sexual crimes with non-white people, because for people who only skim the news, it's a very Pavlovian response. Whenever they see crimes being reported like that, it's always the picture of a non-white perpetrator or perpetrators that they get. It's a very deliberate confirmation bias being built up by the media and certain politicians. So then, more recently, an asylum seeker from Afghanistan staying at a hotel in Epping is charged with sexual assault. Up pop the gammons to demand all asylum seekers are removed from their area. So here's the thing. Why? Because one asylum seeker has committed, potentially, because they've not been convicted, a serious offence like this. All asylum seekers are an excessive risk of the same. How does that work? But they insist they aren't racist. Oh, yes. Well, let's look at another bit of news from yesterday. Because in the stream last night, I said, look, let's say there were no asylum seekers in hotels. There never should have been in the first place. This is a mess left by the tourists. So let's say that hotel were just being used for tourists, right? Holidaymakers, people travelling for business. And an ordinary tourist was charged with rape. Would these same people be protesting outside that same hotel against all tourists? Would they demand that this is a local town for local people and nobody is allowed to travel into Epping from outside? Would they tar all visitors with the same brush? No, they would not. But then the proof of my assertion popped up. Yesterday evening, the news reported of another man being charged with rape. He's a white man. Unusual to be featured in the headline news at all, but this man is an aristocrat, a hereditary lord. Where are the protests from these flag-wearing champions to demand that all lords be chucked out? Why haven't you got gangs of masked men bursting into mansions? Where are the protests of any kind? There are none. None at all. An asylum seeker has potentially carried out a serious assault, sexual assault, rape, and every asylum seeker in the country is guilty and must be exiled for the alleged crimes of another, because remember, there's been no trial yet. But even if convicted, how is every asylum seeker in the country responsible for it? A peer of the realm is charged with the same offence. None of these people give a shit. The only reason it's a news item at all is because he's rich and famous. As I say, entire grooming gangs of white men can be convicted and you will never hear about it if you're only skimming the main news headlines, as a lot of people do. For example, if I tell you, earlier this year, there was a gang of 10 men convicted of grooming and raping in Bolton. So you're going, oh yeah, well that makes sense, Bolton innit? Are these the 10 men you would have in mind? Be honest, it's not, is it? Such is the impact of years of careful and quite deliberate conditioning in the mainstream media. These people are racist. They have been moved to anger, not because of the alleged offence, because they're expressing no anger at all about the charge against Baron Brockett for the same offence. Same offence, but they're only angry at one of them. And not only are they only angry at one of them, it's worse than that. Not a hint of anger at the allegedly raping lord. Plenty of anger at wholly innocent asylum seekers in Epping and elsewhere who just want to live their lives in peace. These people are angry at innocent brown-skinned men. They're not angry at the potential white rapist. That's got nothing to do with caring about women or children. And we know from arrests last year, a massive number of them abuse women themselves. This is racism, pure unvarnished, unhidden racism. And their double standards prove it beyond doubt. Someone who was acting out of anger at the offence would not blame everyone else with the same colour of skin of the same crime. And they would be just as angry at a white man being charged with rape. It's just an excuse to pursue their white utopia. And I don't want to hear any bollocks about it being lazy to call these people racist when they have valid concerns. They don't have valid concerns. They have racial hatred. They are violent thugs who go out of a daytime to try to hound non-white people out of the country, pretending they care about protecting people, then go home to their own women and physically and emotionally abuse them. That's who they are. And if you're trying to tell me otherwise, you're going to have to show quite a bit of working, because I've got evidence on my side. But let me know what you think in the comments below. And for more content, you could subscribe to the channel or even join for access to streams and behind the scenes updates. Thanks for watching. And until next time, I'll see you later.